Jane. I heard you got to go talk to Tomb Raider's daddy, Tobym Gardem.
Yeah, Tobym Gardem.
What'd you dudes talk about?
Dudes, we talked about Laura because I didn't realize that he started out basically as a character designer.
But from what Rutland said, I'm sure there's a clue down there about what killed my mother. I have to go back.
Well, the main thing I was thinking about when coming up with Lara Croft in the first place was just trying to have a character differentiated from all the other characters around at the time. The only games that seemed to be selling at the time were the sorts of games that had big, strong, muscly American men in them. Right. And pretty much the publishers were all saying that you literally had to have an American protagonist even to be able to sell a game at all.
By the way, I was going to say, I love that Lara's still British, unlike Joanna Dark, who they turned into an American.
Did they?
Yeah,
that seems
you didn't
wrong,
see Perfect
it?
Dark Zero. It was really weird.
Is that what I think it is? It's called an anachronism.
It was Amanda's.
So he came up with the character, and then from there he came up with like the game, like
so.
making her into Indiana Jones. Did you find out, like, did he always think, oh, Indiana Jones but with tatas?
Laura, get out of there!
The sort of design I was going for with Lara at the time, especially because of the low polygon counts and everything, it was deliberately like taking cues from comic book characters. So they are kind of exaggerated, and it seemed like you needed to exaggerate. If proportions were completely ordinary in those days with that number of polys, it was kind of difficult to read.
Tomb Raider is a sort of a I don't know if it's controversial, but people sort of are split down the middle on that game, because some women love Tomb Raider, and a lot of women are like, no, the Tomb Raider character is what's wrong with video games.
If we're talking about realism, it's not like the male characters in any of these games are, are the everyman.
No.
So, I mean, I don't think it's terribly reasonable for women to be up in arms because she's so hot. And that's so unreasonable.
In fact, if you look at women's media, we're all about hot women. I mean, pick up
women
the
are way
cover of
Yeah.
of Vogue, and you see it's like half-naked women all across the magazine. So I don't think we have a problem with that so much.
And sure, the female form, in my opinion, is usually prettier than the male.
I kind of think
You know?
too. It's sort of interesting because in this new game itself, they also sort of flash back to early Lara, and they show her in her classic Lara outfit with like that sort of teal tank top,
Right, like an acknowledgement.
and the shorts, and
like,
right.
Hey, remember when this was cool?
Remember when this was
Remember
what
when
she
I wore
looked like?
I had scrunchies in my hair and acid wash jeans. From what I've seen of Legend, they're moving back to that Prince of Persia, movement ideal,
it looks a lot like
I think
Prince of Persia.
I think they figured out that, like, it seems like, I don't know, when you spoke to, he's not on the project anymore though, right?
Well, this is the weird thing, is he wasn't for the longest time, and they coded it without him, and they did all this stuff, and then they brought him on, I guess, pretty recently to sort of fine-tune the character. He advised on the script and the story, and then he determined how she was going to look.
Like, the character for me wasn't supposed to be highly sexualized. In fact, like, none of the original Tomb Raider game was highly sexualized at all. Right. She was very much like being an aristocrat. She was, I think that we treated the character with a lot of respect, right? She was sexy, but at the same time she was never titillating, and she was just strong and therefore interesting just by being herself. And I felt after the game was released, there was like a lot of the old marketing department really wanted to sell her purely on the sex side, and I didn't appreciate that, and that was the reason why I left.
Were you bitter that Lara Croft had been dragged through the mud, sort of, through sort of mediocre movies and games for 10 years, and then when they asked you to come back, I mean, what was your immediate reaction to that when they asked you?
No, I mean, I think like I say, it's an interesting challenge to see whether or not we can make her everything that I always hoped that she was going to be.
I have to ask you this just because I'm obsessed with the fact that you walked away from it all. Like like when Laura was blowing up, you just you started galling. You walked away from it.
I think that you just have to. I don't think money should drive you, right? I mean, it's important and all of that, but at the same time, I wanted to make interesting things. I wanted to make interesting games, and I was afraid that the way that it used to be at core with making Tomb Raider games, that it was sort of felt like a cash cow to me, right? And that there wasn't going to be any ability to really move the franchise forwards.
And here at Crystal Dynamics, you don't think that she's going to become another cash cow?
I think it's a much more. I think the people here really care about Lara and really want to progress the series.
Draw her fire!
Are you considered kind of a loose cannon? Like they don't want you talking to the press about Tomb Raider?
I am a loose cannon. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you also make crazy games like Galleon.
I do, yeah. Yep, that's why you got to watch out for me. Yeah. It scares him.
With the third-person perspective, especially with the games that do have a rich storyline and a good story, which is rare, but it's such a treat. And you get sucked into that story, and it's still much more interactive than just having a book read to you or watching a movie. But you definitely, maybe you don't identify with them, but you certainly begin to sympathize more than you ever would.
Which is why I think also Toby was frustrated with what was happening to Lara, because she was being put in these positions that, the way he conceived of the character would never allow herself. She would never pose in Playboy. Like Lara Croft is way too high class for that. What was it like when you first played Tomb Raider, like the first one? Like when did you play that, and what did you think about it?
I played it for days and days and days and days. I really enjoyed it. I mean, beyond the fact that you got to play, I'm a girl, which I'd only really enjoyed before that in Metroid.
Yeah, but in Metroid it's kind of a cop-out, because it's like you don't even... Yeah. It's not important that she's female.
She's not feminine.
Yeah.
It's important that she's female, because it's a big reveal at the end, I think. Probably that reveal at the end of that game is the main reason I am still today in love with video games, was that feeling it gave me. Not only, we were calling him he all the way through the game, then the big reveal, and not only is it a chick, it looks just like me.
Yeah, with the blonde
It was
hair,
like the video game. Yeah, it was, and it's that 9-year-old, egocentric kind of thing, but, I mean, it completely dissolved that fourth wall, and it was like, video games were totally magic then. People are constantly like, what do girls want to play? How do I get my girlfriend to start playing games? What games will girls like? They're always seeking that demographic. And the thing is, it always comes down to just make good games.
Although I do agree that having things like a female protagonist might be initially more appealing. I mean, I agree with you that it doesn't matter once you begin to play the game and understand all the mechanics of the game, and that's what really keeps you playing. But in terms of getting somebody to pick up a game at first, I think you were right when you said you sort of have to feel like, hey, I can relate to this in some way, whether it's through the character or the story or whatever, but you have to be able to relate. And having a good female protagonist is maybe the easiest way.
You guys are done soon, right? So,
yes.
Yeah. What's next for you? I mean, what are you flirting with? I mean, what do you want to do?
I don't know. I mean, I still think. We've this game really opens the door for Lara Croft in a lot of ways. There's a lot more story to tell. So I'm interested to see what else we can do with it. To be honest with you, so
was just thinking, you know how the next like snake is like old snake?
Oh yeah.
About like old, like Lara when she's
Old
like
Lara.
looking.
Well, she's
Old
already
Lara,
older,
where
right?
she's
In this
like,
game,
yeah, she's older.
Yeah.
But then what if she's like looking back over her? I don't know.
Grandma Lara.
Grandma Lara.
You'll love this. He wants to meet at Toru Nishimura's offices across the street from his penthouse.
Nishimura? Takamoto doesn't know we're friends.
Nope. All he knows is Nishimura's hosting a corporate party tomorrow night, and you'll meet him there.
Better and better.